Have you ever noticed how life sometimes feels like a broken record? The faces change, the places change, but deep down, it's the same song playing. You work on yourself. You try to think positively. You even visualize a better version of your life. And yet, the patterns return. The same doubts, the same fears, the same outcomes. It's almost like you're running in circles on a track you can't see. That's not your fault. They taught you that reality is something out there, a concrete world governed by luck, logic, or some external force. They said it's solid, predictable, and mostly out of your hands. But what if that was the very belief that locked you into repetition? Here's the truth they never told you. You're not inside reality. Reality is inside you. It doesn't happen to you. It responds to you. It mirrors you. It adjusts not to your thoughts, but to your emotional signature. Reality is not a stage you walk through. It's a frequency you tune. You are not the actor in the movie. You are the projector, and the reel spinning behind the scenes, that's your subconscious programming. Bruce Lipton showed us how perception reshapes biology. Joe Dispenza proved that thought doesn't just change mood, it changes matter. Ancient mystics called this mirror magic, not because it's mystical, but because it's mechanical, a loop. A feedback system where the outer world reflects your inner frequency, no more, no less. So the real question is, if you know this, why hasn't your life changed yet? Why do you still attract the same pain, the same sabotage, the same cycles? Because knowing doesn't shift your vibration, and understanding doesn't rewire your frequency. You can't think your way out of a pattern you were emotionally programmed into, and that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. In this video, you'll uncover the invisible mechanism that actually bends your reality, the part no one talks about, and more importantly, you'll learn how to start applying it right now without needing more information, more effort, or more time. Just presence, intention, and a new way of observing what you feel. So, if this theme resonates, if something in you whispers that this is the truth you've been circling for years, then subscribe to this channel right now. Don't let this moment pass unnoticed. Your vibration is listening, and this is just the beginning, the invisible program running your reality. There's something you felt your entire life, but maybe never had words to describe. It's that strange sensation that even when you try to change, even when you read, meditate, journal, visualize, something invisible keeps pulling you back to the same internal place, the same triggers, the same reactions, the same void. You've been told to change your thoughts and you'll change your life, but what if your thoughts aren't the source, just the surface? You're not manifesting with your mind, you're repeating with your wounds, and the part of you that's creating reality is not the conscious part that's watching this video. It's the silent program running in the background, the one wired not by dreams, but by repetition, not by goals, but by memory. Let me explain. Your subconscious isn't spiritual. It's mechanical. It doesn't speak in words. It learns through patterns, through repetition, through the emotional signatures that were burned into your nervous system when you were too young to understand, but old enough to feel. You think you're choosing love, but it feels like abandonment. You think you're building success, but sabotage keeps showing up at the door. That's not failure. That's familiarity. That's the subconscious pulling you back to what it knows. Not what it wants, what it knows, but what if the most powerful truth was hiding where you never thought to look? Here's the pattern most people miss. You can't think your way into a new vibration, because your vibration isn't determined by your thoughts. It's anchored by your emotions, and that happens in seconds, 7 seconds. That's all it takes for an emotional frequency to override your conscious intent. Before your logic even has time to react, Your body has already chosen which frequency to broadcast, and once that frequency is active, reality responds, not to your words, but to your inner resonance. Pause for a moment. Let that land. You've been speaking the language of desire, but sending the signal of fear. You've been asking the universe for something new, but anchored in a frequency shaped by pain, rejection, or waiting. Joe Dispenza calls it thinking equal to your environment. But here's the deeper truth. Your environment was created by your unhealed frequency. And unless you shift that, everything you do will feel like trying to plant seeds in frozen ground. Let's go even deeper. We'll explore now why time doesn't heal anything unless your frequency changes, and how to finally escape the emotional recycling loop that's kept you stuck in yesterday's vibration. Why time doesn't heal if your frequency doesn't shift. They told you, give it time. Time heals everything, but you've waited. You've breathed through it, you've distracted yourself, tried to move on, tried to forgive. And yet, something still lingers. A heaviness, a tension, a silence that doesn't soothe, it haunts. Time by itself doesn't heal. Time recycles, because if the frequency hasn't changed, the loop continues. The faces may shift, the story may evolve. But the feeling stays the same, echoing beneath the surface like a melody you can't stop humming, even when the music is gone. But why? Because most people aren't waiting for healing, they're stuck in the dopamine loop of looking for signs. You've probably felt it, that craving for a message, a number, a synchronicity, anything to confirm that change is coming. But here's the paradox. The more you need confirmation, the more you signal lack. Oh, you're not broadcasting power, you're transmitting powerlessness. Let me give you a clearer image. It's like tuning a radio, but refusing to believe the song is playing until you hear it in your car speakers. The song was there all along, but your vibration wasn't in the right frequency to receive it. Now here's where it goes even deeper. Bruce Lipton's work shows us that biology doesn't respond to time. It responds to belief. Your body doesn't care how long it's been since the trauma. It reacts to the unresolved meaning you still carry in your cells. Your nervous system doesn't operate on a calendar. It operates on vibration. Pause now. Breathe. If you want, imagine this. Each cell in your body carrying the echo of a moment you never fully processed. Like a radio picking up interference, subtle, constant, and just strong enough to distort the signal. That's what emotional memory does. It becomes a silent sabotage. A quiet resistance that says, we've survived this before, let's not change anything now. Even if that survival means repeating the very pain you're trying to escape. So no, time doesn't heal. Only presence heals, only vibration transforms. But what happens when you finally recognize this? You stop waiting for something to shift you and start becoming the shift itself. And maybe that realization is landing right now, like a whisper in your chest. If something moved in you during this moment, write it. Not a sentence, just one word. The one that captures what shifted, the one that carries the new signal you're ready to embody. Maybe it's release, maybe it's presence, maybe it's beginning. Whatever it is, leave that word in the comments. That word becomes your frequency anchor. And now, we're going even deeper into the quantum mechanics of this process. Because your reality isn't responding to the present version of you, it's reflecting the echo of your past frequency. Let's explore how to break that delay and collapse time into alignment. The quantum glitch. Your reality is delayed feedback. Have you ever changed something deep inside, but the world around you stayed exactly the same? You began meditating. You forgave. You started thinking differently. But your bank account didn't change. Your relationships still triggered you. Your life still echoed the same patterns, like nothing had shifted at all. That's not failure. That's physics. Reality as you experience it is not a live broadcast. It's a delayed transmission. What you're seeing today is the frequency you emitted yesterday, or last week, or last year. It's feedback, not fate. You're not being punished. You're just looking at your old vibration, printed out into physical form. Joe Dispenza says, if you're thinking equal to your environment, nothing changes. But let's take that one layer deeper. If you only believe the shift is real after your environment confirms it, then you're still trapped in the loop. This is the quantum glitch. It's the moment where your internal vibration has changed, but your reality hasn't caught up. And in that gap, doubt is born. You start asking, did it even work? Am I doing it right? Maybe I'm not meant to change. But what if this invisible phase is the most sacred part of all? Let me give you an image. Imagine a mirror that reflects not what you are doing now, but what you were doing 30 minutes ago. You smile, and the mirror takes half an hour to respond. That's reality. That's energy turned into matter. That's time catching up to vibration. Here's the process. If you act from the frequency without needing the result, reality bends. If you embody the future feeling, now in this moment, the field reorganizes itself to match you. But if you wait for proof, you pause the shift. You freeze the frequency. You step back into the very pattern you were trying to exit. Pause now. Breathe. If it helps, imagine this. Your current life is just the echo of a vibration you're no longer choosing. So the question becomes, are you willing to live with the delay without abandoning the frequency? Because everything changes the moment you stop chasing outcomes and start choosing alignment. Let's go even deeper. We'll face one of the most subtle blocks to real change. Not your habits, not your past, but your identity itself. And how who you believe you are might be the very thing keeping you from becoming who you're meant to be. The silent enemy, identity attachment. There's something quietly terrifying about change, not because we don't want it, but because on some level, it means letting go of who we've always believed ourselves to be. Everyone says, I want transformation, but what they often mean is, I want change that doesn't challenge who I think I am, and that's where the silent resistance begins. You can visualize wealth, but if your sense of identity is rooted in scarcity, if you believe you're the one who always has to make do or just get by, then abundance won't stick, because it would threaten the story you've wrapped your survival around. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your subconscious doesn't care about your desires. It's loyal to your definitions. And if you've spent years, even decades, defining yourself by pain, by heartbreak, by struggle, by what you overcame, then anything that contradicts that identity will be rejected, not consciously, but vibrationally, energetically, mechanically. It's not about deserving, it's about compatibility. Your manifestations don't fail because you're broken. They stall because they threaten who you think you are. And until you release the identity that's attached to the wound, you'll keep manifesting experiences that reinforce the wound, just so your ego can say, see, this is who I am. But what if you could interrupt that loop? What if there was a way to meet that resistance without collapsing back into the old self? Pause here with me. Let's try something different. Imagine just for a moment that your future self wrote you a journal entry, a memory from the future, not a hope, a memory. A vivid description of who you became, what you created, how you feel, what you now know to be true. You're not pretending, you're remembering forward. When you write from that place, that identity, that frequency, you begin to teach your nervous system that it's safe to become someone new. Not because the past is erased, but because it's no longer the script you're performing. This is not about abandoning yourself. It's about releasing the costume you wore to survive, so you can finally become who you were meant to be beyond survival. And now that we've opened the doorway to identity, let's step into something even more subtle and often invisible. The frequencies you're unconsciously tuning into every moment of every day. There's a kind of silence that isn't peaceful. It's loud with energies you didn't choose, emotions you didn't name, and patterns you didn't even realize you were absorbing. You wake up anxious, but it's not yours. You feel drained after a conversation, but nothing was said. You lose clarity in the middle of an ordinary day and wonder why your vibrations suddenly dipped. The answer is rarely visible, but it's always present, like Wi-Fi signals in the air. You don't see them, but you're always connected to something. And unless you choose your frequency consciously, your body will tune into whatever is most familiar, not necessarily what is most healing. You've seen it before. You just didn't know how to read it. You find yourself reacting to situations that don't match the intensity of your emotion. You walk into a room and feel instantly off balance, even if no words are spoken. That's not just intuition, that's energetic resonance. That's your nervous system responding to subtle frequencies that your conscious mind can't decode. Let me give you a deeper view. Your vibration doesn't only come from what you think or feel. It's shaped by what you've normalized. If pain was present in your childhood, or chaos was the backdrop of your emotional life, then those frequencies become home. Not because they're good, but because they're known. This is where Edgar Cayce's teachings enter the conversation. He spoke of the sleeping mind, the state where we absorb most, not in active thought, but in passive presence. When your guard is down, when your brain is in alpha or theta states, you become a sponge for unseen frequencies. And most of the time, you don't even know you're soaking them in. Pause now. Breathe gently. Imagine your energetic field like a porous sponge. What if part of your exhaustion isn't yours? What if your heaviness is simply the emotional residue of other people's unspoken fears? And this is where discernment becomes power. Not judgment, discernment. When you begin to notice what isn't yours, you reclaim the power to choose what stays. Maybe that sadness was never yours to carry. Maybe that doubt was inherited. Maybe the tension in your chest belongs to a story that isn't your own. This moment is your permission to let go of what was never yours. And before we move forward, let me take a moment to acknowledge something important. If you're still here, still listening, still walking with me through this journey, thank you. Your presence means something. Your energy is felt. Take just one moment now and tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced this? A moment where you felt an emotion that didn't seem to belong to you, a sudden shift that made no logical sense? Share it, not just for you, but for others. Your story might be the mirror someone else needs, and if this path resonates, subscribe to the channel and join our growing community. This is not a one-time conversation. This is a shared journey of remembering who we are together, because we'll explore exactly how to collapse limiting patterns. Not in theory, but in 72 hours of vibrational practice. How to collapse a limiting pattern in 72 hours. There's a sacred window, a moment of disruption where the old program trembles. It's subtle, often uncomfortable. And if you're not paying attention, you miss it. You call it frustration. You call it overwhelm. You call it, I'm having a bad day. But underneath it all, it's a portal, a crack in the matrix, an invitation to rewire. You don't need a lifetime to shift. You need presence in the right moment and a willingness to do something new, even when every part of your identity wants to repeat the old. Let me walk you through the process. Collapse begins with awareness. The first 24 hours are about noticing, not fixing, not reacting, just noticing. When the emotion rises, when the trigger hits, when the pattern shows itself, don't run from it. Observe, breathe, and say silently, "This is the old signal. I no longer answer." Awareness interrupts automaticity. It creates a vibrational gap between the stimulus and the response. And in that space, you plant the seed of new possibility. Then comes the disruption. The next 24 hours are about creating friction, not dramatic action, symbolic interruption. You brush your teeth with the opposite hand. You take a different route to work. You speak a truth you'd normally silence. These small shifts are not trivial. They signal to your subconscious, we are no longer in the loop. It's like changing the rhythm of a song. The melody can't continue if the beat is broken. And finally, installation. The last 24 hours are sacred. This is where you introduce the new vibration, not just in thought, but in ritual. You light a candle and write the future in present tense. You speak to yourself in the mirror, not like a stranger, but like the version of you who already made it through. Decimi darum exemplo. You look into your own eyes and say, "This pattern is not me. It's what I learned, and I am now unlearning it with love." This is what I call the mirror mantra. Not a chant, not a script, but a declaration, emotionally charged, spoken while feeling, whispered through presence. And if done with sincerity, the field listens. You see, patterns don't die from exhaustion. They dissolve in clarity. They collapse when they are seen with truth, met with compassion, and replaced with resonance. Pause now. Breathe deep into your belly. If you feel discomfort rising, it means the old code is active. And that's exactly where your power is hiding. Because you don't break patterns with pressure. You break them with presence. And now we'll explore something even more radical, the forgotten role of sacred boredom, why the silence, the stillness, and the nothingness you often fear might be the exact space where your reality is finally listening. The forgotten role of sacred boredom. There's a moment in every inner journey where nothing seems to happen. No visions, no signs, no breakthroughs, just silence, stillness, boredom. And that's when most people quit. Not because they've failed, but because they were never taught that the quiet is the transformation. We've been programmed to associate growth with noise, with activity, with visible change. But frequency doesn't always move in fireworks. Sometimes it settles like dust, clearing the air for something new to land. When nothing is happening, everything is recalibrating. Let me explain. Every shift in vibration creates temporary dissonance. Your nervous system senses the unfamiliar, and your conscious mind interprets it as discomfort. But what if that discomfort wasn't a problem, but a detox? What if the boredom was your body releasing its addiction to chaos? You've lived so long on the edge of urgency that peace feels like a void. But that void is not empty. It's clean. It's sacred. It's space. It's the field making room for the new pattern to take root. You don't need to fill every silence. You don't need to explain every pause. Sometimes becoming means sitting in the gap between the version of you that existed and the one being born. But let's make this tangible. Take a moment now to consider a 24-hour silence fast. No podcasts, no background noise, no external voices, just your breath, your body, your being. It's not punishment, it's purification. It's the return to your own frequency without interference. And maybe, just maybe, what you've been calling stuck was really just the soil settling before the bloom. Pause now. Let that truth echo through your system. You're not behind. You're becoming in a language your mind can't yet translate. And as we begin to close this journey, let me remind you of something simple, yet powerful. You were never meant to control reality. You were meant to command your frequency. You were never supposed to control reality. You were supposed to command your frequency. That one sentence, if you let it in, it changes everything. You stop negotiating with what's outside and you begin aligning what's inside. You stop forcing and start attuning. You stop asking the world to shift and begin shifting the field that creates the world, the projector, not the screen. Remember what we said at the beginning. You're not walking through a movie. You are the light casting it. And the real, that loop of memory, belief, emotion, has been running on autopilot for far too long, but now you've seen it. And what's been seen can't be unseen. Because reality doesn't begin when something changes outside. Reality begins where your old pattern ends. That's the line where a new script is written, and not by pushing, not by hustling, but by choosing, again and again, to tune into the frequency of who you already are, beneath the noise, beneath the story, beneath the survival. So if something moved in you today, if something remembered itself through these words, know that it wasn't just a video. It was your own field shifting, your own soul choosing to step forward. Thank you, truly, for walking this far, for staying with the discomfort, for listening not just with your ears, but with your energy. Your presence here is not passive, it's a signal, it's a choice, and I'd love for you to leave something behind, not for the algorithm, but for the resonance. Tell me in the comments, did this message meet you where you are? Did something soften? Did something awaken? Like this video if it touched something in you, and subscribe if you feel this path is yours to keep walking. There's so much more ahead, and we're only just beginning. You don't have to do this alone. Echoes of the Path is a space of remembrance, and in every video, in every story, in every silence, something returns to you. So join us and keep walking. Watch the next video we've chosen for you. It continues this exact frequency. It holds more than you expect. Your energy is a language, and the universe listens. See you in the next step.